everybody, KP here. I'm sitting at a rest stop. Let's see, I'll flip this around so you can see. Boop. There you go. You can see it's raining out here. Today was my first day back at school. First day of my senior year. Woo! I feel like I need to have a celebration. Man, this has been a long journey to complete my undergrad. I started in the year 2000. Believe it or not, fall 2000, I started my undergrad at VCU. That turned into a thing that never finished. I ended up getting my associates elsewhere, and then had family and kids and all that, and did the whole 9 yards. I traveled and worked and was a stay-at-home mom for a long time and just did all the things except the one thing that was like my goal, which was to graduate from university. So here we are, final year. I'm super excited. Had my first two classes today. Let's see, one is public sociology. It's actually an independent study class from my minor, but it's turning out to be like a group project, I guess. I'm not really clear on all the ins and outs of it because my teacher still hasn't shared everything with us, but we're working with a network of like homeless services providers in Fredericksburg, and doing like a gaps analysis and trying to figure out how they can improve their services to the community, if there's any areas where they're lacking, any underrepresented groups or underserved groups, that kind of thing. So it sounds like it should be interesting. I'm still not sure how we break down into groups within the class because it's a fairly small class. And I don't really know how we're going to break down into smaller groups and what our individual projects will be within these groups. It looks like this is the first time the teacher is doing her class in this way. And so perhaps it's a learning experience for all of us, not just the students, but also for the teacher. And then my second class of the day was, I think it's called The Nature of Cities. It's a geography class, also for my minor. My minor is urban studies, so all of these things kind of fall under the urban studies umbrella. That class is focused on like climate change and cities, and there's one more thing I can't remember. Wrote it down in my notes, but for some reason my brain can't recall it right now. But to see how these things are all interrelated. I'm not sure where we're going with that in the class. Looks like we have to do some kind of research and that kind of thing. I have to read through that syllabus a little bit more. Most of my teachers did not open the online Canvas site up for the students to access the class materials until today. So I was not able to read ahead in some of my other classes, like my geography class. My sociology teacher opened that class up over the weekend, so I was able to like really dig into a lot of the details of the project we were going to do and the readings we were going to do before class even started. I always liked that, like going into class, knowing the expectation, knowing what I'm going to do, and just being totally prepared for it. It's really nice. So a little frustrated that that didn't happen with my other teacher, but that's okay. It's okay. We're all adjusting and figuring things out in like this so-called post-COVID world, right? Even though COVID is still very much a thing. One of my teachers, this is the first time she's done an in-person class in a couple years, so it should be fun. Tomorrow I have, testing my memory. It's terrible. Tomorrow I have my archaeology lab, and what else? It's a historic preservation class that is also a lab. I can't remember, but I'll probably fill you in tomorrow after I have the classes. But they're both basically lab classes, one focused on archaeology, one focused on architectural preservation, National Register nominations. I'm trying to remember what I saw on the syllabus because I read over those two classes today just to get a glimpse of what they're about. I can't remember. I think there's one more thing that we're doing. We might touch on like some preservation law or something like that. I'm looking forward to the two classes tomorrow because those are part of my major, which is historic preservation. So I'm really excited, especially excited for the archaeology class because I had an archaeology field school over the summer with Professor Julia King at the St. Mary's College of Maryland. And that I really loved that field school. I've wanted to do a field school since I ever learned that field schools even existed for archaeology. And I'm so pleased that I got to do that one, specifically focused on like the Rappahannock tribe in Virginia. And that was like great. I so enjoyed that experience, and I hope to get more archaeology experience as time goes on. After class today, I stopped by Combs Hall. So my classes today are in Monroe, which is like the opposite side of the school from where my major classes are, which is in Combs. So I walked over to Combs in the rain, yeah. But I did have an umbrella, so that's good. I was prepared. And I just went to see if my teachers, and even those who aren't my teacher this semester, but like I have, I try to communicate with all of the preservation teachers, except like one or two that I haven't had their classes yet. But those that I have a relationship with already from them teaching me in the past, I try to stay in contact with them, to visit them, to get advice, to get suggestions and help with things. So I stopped by to get like their office hours. None of them were in the office except for the new teacher. I don't know if she's a doctor. I can't remember, but I know Professor Parker. She is the archaeology teacher this semester, and she'll be my archaeology lab teacher. So I'm really excited about that. We talked for probably 20 or 30 minutes. It was great just to get to know her and hear about some of her background and talk to her about some of mine. And we sort of brainstormed some ways that she might be able to help me as I graduate and move forward with a career in archaeology, which I think is the direction I'm going to go. While I'll still be working in cemeteries, I think that archaeology is going to be what pays the bills for me, and cemeteries would be like the side hustle. I only say that because a lot of times it's hard to get work, like paid work in cemeteries, at least from what I have seen, unless you work for like, the Department of Historic Resources or something like that. So that's what happened today. I was on the way home from school. I was actually done with class by 1. I hung out with the professor for about 30 or so minutes, and then I got on the road. Well, it's 4 o'clock now. The rain got so bad that I had to pull over. I drive about an hour, 15 minutes. It's supposed to be, according to my GPS, supposed to be an hour and 15 minutes one way to school and then back home. But with traffic, because I'm traveling towards Northern Virginia, traffic gets really bad. So it usually ends up being about an hour 30, an hour 45, depending on traffic or if there's accidents. Oh gosh. If there's accidents, I could possibly miss class. I normally plan, 2 hours for travel time. Just because you don't know what might happen, I usually have to stop like along the way to like use the rest stop or something like that. And then by the time I get to school, I have to find parking, which we don't even want to talk about parking. But I have to find parking, and then I have to walk to class depending on where I parked. It could be a really long walk. It could be, a 2-second walk. It just depends on my luck for the day. And so, yeah, I plan 2 hours. And then if I get there early, I can rest in the car. I got oh, you can't see it. I've got my squishy behind me. It's hard to see, but I have a Squishmallow behind me. I'm a fan of Squishmallows. I have 4 of them. And I have one that I travel with, and right now she is supporting my back because it's hurting. And the squishiness of the Squishmallow feels great. Shout out to all my Squishmallow fans out there. And I have a blanket in the back, so sometimes I take a nap in the back seat. Yes, this is the life of a commuter student who is traveling a very long way to get to school. And then, maybe I can do homework or things like that. Sometimes I have projects or tests that I can take, or I can do some advanced reading to get ahead for classes, which is really important because I don't know what happens, but 3rd, 4th week of classes, things just suddenly fall apart and it feels like the world's going to end. And it kind of feels like that for everybody, like teachers and students. So yeah, it's nice to get to school early sometimes so I can have some time to do some other things that don't always happen at home. I spend a lot of time traveling, easily 3 hours of my day every day is spent on the road. And that makes it quite difficult when I have projects and research and all kinds of stuff to do. And this year I also have an internship that requires 12 hours a week. So it's going to be a lot to balance, but we'll see what happens. So it's 4 o'clock. I've got homework to do, but I just wanted to check in and say hello and let y'all know what's going on. I'm going to try to do updates, fairly regularly, kind of. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to try. I'll probably be able to do it until the schedule gets... Oh, the truck almost just hit a car beside me. I'm going to try to do it until my schedule gets too hectic, and then we'll see how things fall. I also want to try and visit some cemeteries. I actually plan to visit a cemetery in Fredericksburg today. But the rain just got too heavy. I thought maybe if it was a light rain, earlier today, it was just sort of sprinkling, but now it's a fairly heavy rain. So the cemetery wasn't going to happen. If you know cemeteries, you really don't visit cemeteries in the rain. That's not a thing to do. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I will check in later if anything exciting happens. I don't think anything will for a while, probably until next week, but we'll see. I got some meetings planned and some things in the works and some good conversation I had with my archaeology teacher that might lead to potential career opportunities. So I'm just gonna keep my eyes and ears open, see what happens. If anything exciting happens, I'll let you know. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.